Welcome, everybody. John Zager. Good afternoon. How are you? Let's see, 2:46, Friday afternoon at 2:46. Temperature is 89, heading up to 96 as always. No clouds, a couple here and there. No rain predicted, no moisture. And I am going from north to east now. So you are correct. Let's see. Wanted to get on, do a little presentation about how it all begins. And I'm in the truck. I'm headed out east of town again. It's kind of, middle of the day, pretty hot. I have to go to the store yet, so I'm going to get this podcast in, this presentation in before that. And then later today, I've been riding my bike out in the country. There's a town about, I think it's about 17 miles east of here. I don't always get that far, but I like to head down that way and on my bicycle, and I usually leave like around 5, and who knows when I get back, dark 30 or something. But, so, how does it all start? How does all this get started? Why are you here? Why do you think you need help? Why do you think you're sick? What kind of sickness do you have? How did you get it? How did you get sick? Stuff like that. So I want to address some of that today. And I guess I want to start drinking tea, sweet tea today with lots of ice in a large Starbucks plastic clear glass. And it's delicious. Thank you. So here's the deal. Do you believe that you can make yourself sick? Okay. So how do you make yourself sick? How'd you do that? How have you done that before? Right? My research shows that we think or have thoughts that create sickness and illness. Oops, that's what I come up with. I don't know what you guys come up with, but that's what I seem to come up with, is that we can think ourselves sick into being sick. We can think ourselves into a disease. We can think ourselves into illness, colds, flus, viruses. We can lower our immune system through thoughts. Absolutely. Absolutely we can. And that's how it kind of happens, you guys. Now, is it that simple? You just think that and it happens? No. So when we're growing up, as we have talked before in the past, when we're little peeps between mom's third trimester and 7 years old, our personality is formed, how we think, act, and feel. And that personality is the same personality that you have today. Absolutely. It's the same personality as your personality when you were 3, 4, 5, 6. So you use bigger words. It's the same personality. You learn belief systems from the adults around you, right? You have the same belief systems. That's the programs that are running in the background all the time. Okay? Those are not supposed to be running in the background all the time. But you've hardwired them to such an extent that they just run continuously. Okay? So you have all of that stuff going on when you're a little person, and as you grow up, everything you absorbed in your hypnotic trance in theta became hardwired. And now here's the connection. Here's the connection. You take two people that work in a factory that has, what do they call them? Carcinogens? Cancerous carcinogens. Yeah? You inhale that stuff, let's say. 25 years you're inhaling it. And we all know the stories. We all have heard them and read them and watched them on TV and blah, 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 blah. One guy ends up getting cancer. I don't know, after 15, 20 years or something like that. Who knows? And the other guy goes on to live to be 80-some years old and never got cancer and was healthy as can be his entire life. Why is that? Belief system? Sure. Probably not. Belief system isn't necessarily something that would have to do with your job that you work at. But here is the connection. It's environment. Your environment calls up the gene. Doesn't mean you get it. It calls it up. And then it's your belief system that determines if you actually get that. And we're going to use cancer as an example today, okay? It's your belief system then that upregulates and then allows the cancer to develop. So you have environment that calls up the genes, the negative genes, the diseased genes. So when you're thinking about, how did I get this? How did this happen? Where did it come from? What did I do? How can I not do it again? Environment. Okay, so let's look at environment. Tell me more about environment. Environment has to do with everything out here. Okay? Including the food that you eat, where you work, all that kind of stuff. If you're working in a factory that has, I think they call them carcinogens, but I'm not I don't know, educated person enough to understand it. But, if it has chemicals that you're inhaling that can enhance the probability of disease, that's not a good place to be working. That's a conscious choice you're making also, by the way, to work there. I don't care how poor you happen to be, it's still a choice you're making to be there. Right? So the first thing we're talking about is where you work. Not everybody works in environments that are unhealthy to you. Not everybody does that, of course. There's a million jobs that are just regular old jobs that have no impact on that kind of stuff. But those kinds of factory jobs can lend themselves even more to calling up those genes, which may be cancerous. All right, food that you eat, that's environment. You know, when you're buying food at the grocery store, I mean that's environmental stuff you're touching. You know, these are cows or hogs or fish, excuse me, or chicken. You know, how do you know what happened to them? What they were fed, what kind of conditions they were raised in, you know, what kind of chemicals they were given, what kind of pesticides were in their food. That's environment. So you go to the grocery store and you start buying stuff in the frozen food section that has preservatives in it in the cans, and you know, all the meat and poultry and fish. You know, why is there 50% less fish in the ocean today than there was in 1970? And why do they say, these are scientists, this isn't me, why do the scientists say in 2048 the ocean will not have any fish? Well, it has something to do with all of the chemicals that are in the water, in the ocean. And that's a large part of it. I put on my Facebook page, there was a map. It was really a cool map. And it had all of the debris that was rubber or plastic and where it's located in the ocean. From here to Japan and Asia, it's like a long, wide circle that hits over to Asia and then comes back. I mean, there is so much plastic and rubber debris waste in the ocean. And we're not even talking about all the other garbage that goes into the ocean. Well, guess what? The fish eat it. Turtles, especially, just eat it as food now. And they all die. And the fish die. And the fish are contaminated. So, environment may be, if you're in a factory or some kind of health hazard position that you're inhaling or consuming somehow, toxins. If you're at the grocery store, as innocent as that may be, that's environment. Well, you know, that's going to attract those genes that have diseases that affect you. It's going to call up those genes. What other environment? What other kinds of environmental factors are out there that influence you? The rivers, right? The rivers in the mountains, the pristine rivers where you take your family, you go up, you go camping, you go fishing. You think, this is the best fish in the world. Is it? What about all the farmers that have the hay fields? What about all the ranchers that have all of those hundreds of thousands of acres that may have contaminants in them? It rains, it runs through the fields, it runs into the rivers, it runs down the rivers, the fish absorb the chemicals. So an innocent thing, as much as taking your family just out camping and fishing or something. What if you take your family out camping or RVing out into the farm areas? Not the mountains, but out east. You know, I'm kind of right on the edge of the eastern slope. What if you went east, all the way into eastern Colorado, western Nebraska? You don't think there's chemicals out there? Things that you would be inhaling or eating or somehow getting into your system? What if you buy something from a local farmer while you're out there on your weekend with your family? Corn, or cucumbers, or tomatoes, or eggs. How do you know what he's used on all of those products? From pesticides to all kinds of chemicals that could be irritants for people. Environment. What about stress? 70% of Americans have stress every day of their life. That's science, that's not me. 70% of people who get up in the morning, and it's probably more like 90%, of people who get up in the morning do not get up in the morning thinking about their day and future in a positive, healthy, optimistic, excited, intriguing, adventurous, inspiring, empowering way. They're worried about what happened yesterday. They're worried about what happened last week, last month, last year. Why are things not going well? What happened to the economy? What happened to the politics? Why are people fighting? Why are people angry? You understand what I'm saying? You following me? So environment has to do with that. Your stress level. Your stress level calls out disease and attracts it into you. And then you upregulate it. So, and that's just a few things. I mean, they're major categories, but, you know, they're very, very important. How did you get the way you are today? What happened for you to get the sickness or illness or disease that you currently have? How many of you people take over-the-counter, what do they call that stuff? I don't know. There's all kinds of like medicine that's over-the-counter. I don't know why it's called over-the-counter. It doesn't have the strength or potency, I guess, that a prescription would. It doesn't matter. What are you taking that stuff for? Why do you have to take that? What are you doing to help yourself? How many people are out there, I hate to say working out, but exercising every day? Do you walk? Do you run? Do you bicycle? Do you hike? Do you go to the club? Do you do cardio? Do you do weights? What are you doing to enhance the quality of your life, reduce the stress, and build the immune system? Here, I still see people smoking cigarettes. What is up with that? What's up with that? Smoking cigarettes. You know, there's the guys that go to the golf course and for some strange reason, they think they have to have a cigar. For what? Did they win the Masters or something? Or the U.S. Open? They're playing in a public, what do they call that? Public golf course. I don't know. Links, I guess it's called. So they shot a 89 instead of a 91. And it's time to have another brewski and a cigar. Do they think that's not going to attract disease? Call up disease? I mean, just go. We can go on and on with just endless, useless things that people do to their body. They attract. You attract that stuff. You call up that stuff through the environment and through your belief system. And your belief system fits in perfectly because it says, heck, everybody does this. Everybody eats meat. Everybody eats corn on the cob. Everybody eats frozen peas or something. Everybody gets beans from a can. Let me tell you, here's how that works. Here's how that works. When I was a young kid, when I was a young boy, under 10, I lived in a neighborhood where everybody lived way over 100. And I know all their names. I used to visit with all of them. They used to have me sit in their backyard, and visit at night, and they would talk to me, and the ladies would fix me apple pies and German chocolate cake. I had a lady who used to always have me come over for German chocolate cake. But they would have bacon every morning of their life. Thick bacon. Sausage. Handmade, thick, big sausage every morning. Eggs every morning. I used to go over. They would invite me. Come on over, Johnny, and have breakfast with us. Okay. They would eat steaks. Back then, you could buy a T-bone steak for $1, $1.25, a pounder. They would have fabulous meals. Corn on the cob until the butter and everything just drooled down your chin. It was delicious. Were they sick? Never saw an ambulance, ever. I lived on that street for, 15, 20 years. I never saw anybody die. I left the neighborhood before they died. And they were all well up into their 90s when I left. There was a couple that were over 100. And I always wondered about them. I wonder if they're still alive. I wonder if they're dead. I wonder what happened to them. Here's the answer, you guys. Your belief system sucks. Back then, all that food never had a trickle of pesticides or chemicals of any kind. The animals never were treated with supplements or food sources or grasses or hay or anything that was treated with any kind of chemical. When they use the word organic, right? Organic was back when I was growing up, but the thing was, everything was organic. If you went out to get corn, it was organic corn. They never used the word organic. No matter what you bought, it was organic. Nothing was treated with chemicals. there were no toxins going into your body when you ate food. Whether you bought it from the farmer out there or whether you bought it from the grocery store. The food that you ate, everybody liked to go out and eat, once a week. And they had these steak houses. Where I grew up, there were probably 1824 really well-known, prominent steak houses, which are still there today, by the way. You could go in there and get the biggest, massive steak, porterhouse, whatever, side deal of spaghetti, and just, I can't even begin to tell you how hungry and I'm drooling thinking about it. The food was delicious, and it could do you no harm. There were no chemicals. It was organic. So today, there's a little section in the produce department that says organic, right? I mean, I think Whole Foods claims their stuff is organic. I don't know that. I've been in there, and I really just can't afford. Some things I can afford to buy in there, but most things I can't afford. So it moves me down to another store where the organic section might be very, very tiny. And sometimes I'm even having to... I lived down in Central America for a year or so, maybe a couple years. And I was building a treatment facility down there. It was for people with compulsive disorders, addictions and stuff. And I got to know all the locals, and I fell in love with the people. And we had Gisela. I believe her name was Gisela. And she was our cook. She cooked all of our meals, did all of our washing, and cleaned the house. And down there you can get a person like that for $30 a month. This would be back in 2009 or 2010. I'm not quite sure which. So it wasn't that terribly long ago, really. But anyway, she would teach me and she would fix me dos bacon and 2 eggs, and we had meat. We had a lot of chicken. We had mango trees in the backyard. We had fruit everywhere, vegetables everywhere. And there was a market in our little Costa Rican town where you went down there every day or twice, 3 times a week, and you bought all of your fruits and vegetables and fish. Right? We lived right on the ocean. So we'd go down to when the fishermen came in the end of the day, and we'd buy fresh fish. My red snapper. We had red snapper until we were tired of it. Tuna, shark, just whatever you could imagine. We had greens and vegetables of things I had never, ever heard of. Gisela would go out. I lived on a compound. And she would go out in our back area of the compound, and she'd pick stuff that I thought she was picking grass. I don't know what the heck it was. It ended up being on the dinner table. It was delicious. You know, some kind of a salad. I don't know, something that grew wild that they ate down there as salad. But the point being is that everything was organic down there. It's a third world country. They don't have chemicals. They're not putting chemicals on their food. And those people are happy, healthy, and they live long lives. Just an example. But so we've talked for months about belief systems. And we're going to talk more about them. But environment, you know, I'm just scraping this little tiny piece of environment that upregulates cancerous genes into your body. Along with your belief system, guaranteed science, you will get a disease and you will probably die. Nobody's going to fix that. You brought it on. Now you need to change it. The belief system. We talked about belief systems. You know, people accept, believe, and surrender. Hook, line, and sinker. They accept everything they heard growing up. They believe it. People that are in fourth stage cancer, right? They get, by non-medical means, cured of their disease they're supposed to die of. And they get kicked out of hospice because they didn't die. They just changed their belief system. And go on the internet, go research this stuff. There's case studies you can read through where people change their belief system the last day of their life. The family's called. They're told, you know, this person's going to pass away here today or tomorrow. You better get in here in a hurry. They don't die. They change their belief system. You can think yourself sick. You can think yourself dead, actually. You can also think yourself well and that you don't have disease and that you'll continue living. Same things with environment. That's a thought process that occurs. Where you work, why you're working there, what you eat, where you go, what you do, where you live, why we let these planes fly up over top of us and drop chemicals on our head. So I challenge everybody. What time is it here? Let me see. Okay, I'm late. So I challenge everybody. I challenge you to pick one thing and change it. Pick food. Something simple. As simple as food. And all of the disgustingly just take beef. If you knew where that cow was, what it was eating, what its meat looked like, how it was killed. Do you know that also produces genes in the meat based on how the cow is killed? Never thought of that one, did you? There's stuff you can watch, and most people that watch this stuff don't ever eat beef again, or poultry, or any of that stuff. When it says farmed fish, run. Do not buy. So I challenge you, just go ahead and change the type of food or the quality of food that you're eating. This is not, 50 some years ago, where everything was organic and there was no such thing as chemicals in your food and all that kind of stuff, contaminants. Listen, I've run too long on this podcast, so I'm going to go ahead and stop it. But we'll pick it up again, and I'm hoping everybody got a chance to listen to this whole thing. God bless everybody. Take care of one another, and I'll look forward to talking to you all again real soon. See you. Bye.